Hey, so today I'm going to be sculpting one of my favorite Studio Ghibli characters, Porco Rosso. We're just going to be doing his head for time's sake. I'm going to start off with a sphere and a cylinder and start blocking in my rough shapes to start to get the form, just using the move tool to push and pull his cheeks, and then working with the clay build-up tool and the flatten tool to kind of work in his scarf. Later I decide that I need to redo the scarf, so you'll see that near the end. But for now, this all works just fine for blocking. I'm going to add another cylinder here and place it for his nose. Use the move tool to shape his nose. Remesh it every once in a while when I get happy with the shapes and I need a little bit more geometry to sculpt with. I needed to remesh it specifically so I had some detail to mask off the nostrils. So I masked those off, inverted the mask, then used the move tool to push them back into the snout. Now I created some simple spheres and flattened them, and I'm placing them with mirror mode on for the lenses on his glasses. Continuing to work on the detail of the face. Again, I had to remesh to a higher resolution, so I had some resolution to mask with. Same way I did the nostrils on the snout. So I masked off the teeth. And for this, I'm trying something a little bit different. I'm messing with using the extract feature to split off the teeth so I can push them back and I can actually have different geometry for the teeth, meaning it's on its own unique layer. So, that works well enough. I'm still kind of working out the best way to kind of go about that technique, but it works well enough here. So now I'm smoothing things out and pushing the lips around. I like to continue to kind of block in the colors as I go on this, just so his features are pretty clear. All right, so similar to the teeth, I'm masking off his cap. So I'll mask that off, and from here I'll use the extract, and I'll have to increase the thickness on the extract feature. And sometimes to get that right, you just have to hit extract, undo, adjust the thickness, hit extract, undo until you get it just right. Once I've gotten it, I go through and I smooth out kind of the geometry around the edge, and then I use the crease tool to get more of a crisper edge around the edge of the cap. Adding another sphere here for the little earpieces on the cap. Just like the snout, I mask off those holes, use the move tool to push them back in, and then I go through and smooth out the geometry. All right, so now I'm using the move tool to kind of further refine the shape of things, such as the cap and the lenses. All right, and here I've added some more spheres for the mustache. If you create the sphere and you didn't mirror it to begin with, you can always refine it and then go back and enable symmetry and turn on mirroring to add the other side. Here I'm using the mask tool to kind of define the indentations for his teeth, where his individual teeth are. So I masked those off. Again, I use the move tool just like on the snout and the earpieces. And then I went in and used the pinch tool to kind of make those gaps a little tighter and closer together. Here I'm continuing to refine the feature of the face. I'm using just simple brush tools and sharp brush tools. Now I'm adding some cylinders for his goggles, moving those around. When you work on a character, it's a good idea to just take each little piece that needs to be sculpted and try to think of its simplest geometric form, and then start with those shapes and then just push and pull around them until you get what you need. Here, they ended up a little bit lumpy. That's kind of the nature of working in Nomad with this more clay-like structures, is you have to be really careful when you use the move tool, or it's really easy to get things lumpy, and then you have to spend a lot of time kind of working to get them smooth again. The flatten tool can really help with that. All right, and now I'm starting to mask around these goggles and use the extract tool, just like I did with the cap, to add the leather lining around the lenses. It can take some time to further refine and smooth shapes out without them becoming really lumpy. But to some degree, I like the lumpiness. It's got a really natural clay feel to it. So You know, some of the best computer graphics are ones that look hand-drawn and don't look too perfect. And so I don't mind having a little bit of irregular shapes here and there. All right, now I'm using the tube tool. The tubes in Nomad are such a really handy feature. So here I used them to lay out the straps, and then very quickly went in and flattened these straps using the flatten tool. And then I used the clay buildup tool back on his cap to create the straps that hold in his goggle straps. And I'm adding some, using the brush to kind of add some volume around where his earpieces meet the cap, as well as around the edge. Okay, here I'm masking off and I'm creating the padding that goes underneath the goggles. Again, just same process as I've been doing all along, just kind of rinse, repeat. I mask things off, hit extract, and then further refine the shapes. All right, now I'm just blocking in some color. Continuing to tweak shapes and pull them in to the way they need to be. Some of the reshaping that comes in is me taking a closer look at the reference. You know, I don't have the reference pulled in on Nomad. I like to pull up images on my phone as I work, just so I have as much screen space as I can when I work. Here I'm using the tube tool to add the wireframes to his glasses. The tube tool, once again, is extremely intuitive and useful in Nomad. I really like the way it works. It's really easy to get the curves that you need. And, you know, the tubes kind of lay across the top of the geometry, which makes things really easy. So here I am using the tube tool to go around the goggles. What I end up doing is I pull the little curve points into each other to reduce the curve points. The fewer curve points you have, the smoother that the tube is going to be. Continuing to rework the mouth, again, based on looking at reference and kind of getting the feel. You know, the drawings of Porco, you know, it's 2D animation. A lot of times there's not a lot of lines and shadow to really know exactly how the shapes go. So you need to look at a lot of different drawings to kind of get a feel for that. But, you know, I added some flesh around his brows and kind of bulked up the chin more. Again, I spent a lot of probably unnecessary time working on the scarf, and I eventually decided to redo it in a much simpler fashion after looking back at the reference. I think I got a little carried away thinking of how I wanted or how I thought it should be without paying closer attention to the reference. The reference has the scarf in a much simpler fashion. I think I just got a little too complex here. But that's fine. You know, even if you're making mistakes or having to redo things, you know, you'll always do them faster the second time around. So here I use the tube tool to, similar to the way I used it with the goggles, to make the end of his scarf. And this piece I ended up keeping. I like to use the clay buildup tool to build up volumes, and the sharp brush to kind of create little indentations. And then the crease tool to go along the edges to really sharpen up edges. So there's using the crease tool on the goggle padding. Adding some more wrinkles in here and there on the face, just to add some more visual interest to him. You can see he's really starting to take shape now, so I thought now would be a really good time to add in some 3-point lighting. So here since this is since Porco is typically flying around outside, I eventually went for more of a brighter look than I typically go for. So I've got one strong directional light as the key light, and you know, that's kind of like you would have, you know, with the sunlight. And then I use a spotlight to get some rim on the side of him. Here I'm tweaking some of the shader parameters, such as the roughness and metalness on each item, just going through one by one and just filling those in. Then I like to take a deeper shade of the color for his nostrils, and also just going around some of kind of the ambient occlusion areas of where there's cavities and divots to kind of help pronounce those. Adding some blush on his cheeks. Just to try to break up some of the big flat areas on the design. Okay, so here I am reworking the scarf again. After looking back at the reference, I was like, you know what, this is all the scarf really is a series of cylinders. There's not really any difficult like folds or or tying going on his scarf. So I just added 3, actually not cylinders, but toruses or tori. I don't know what you would say there. Added those together, then I merged them together with the voxel merge and reshaped them. Just reshaping them with the move tool. All right, now I'm using the crease tool to kind of add a little bit more definition in their form. Remeshing as need be, just to be sure I can get the detail that I need. All right, now I'm using the smooth tool to kind of make the folds a little more shallow in places. All right, and again here I'm using more of a darker shade to kind of go in and where there are cavities in the geometry to darken those up so they're a little bit more pronounced. Continuing to rework some of the blush on him, make it a little bit more pronounced as well. And again, working in the shadows. Here I'm adding just some crease detail with the sharp brush to get a little bit of a seam in the back and to enhance the straps around his goggles. At this point, I'm just kind of having fun adding a little bit more detail. I'm basically happy with the sculpt where it is and just trying to add just some more interesting detail. I decided to go ahead and paint in the shine on his goggles. I think it reads a little bit better. Later, I do a final render in Blender, and I end up remapping that light blue to, I think, the specularity or the roughness. And it worked pretty well that way. But I also like the way it looks here in Nomad, too. Switched my HDRI backdrop to something that's a little bit more brighter. Again, he's outside in the sun, so a lot of times I have a tendency to light my sculpts, in dark 3-point studio lighting. Here I'm still doing 3-point lighting, but I'm trying to do it in a way that looks a lot more bright and sunny. You can see that bloom really pronounced here in the render. So here's my final turnaround. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below what you might like to see me sculpt next. Thank you, guys.